Hey fellow Trek Chatters, I'm Pit Trekkie and welcome to another episode of Pittsburgh's Trek Chat. So for today's episode, I'm going to be reviewing episode 5 of the Star Trek Con audio podcast called Imagination's Limits. Now, it's been a few weeks since I've been able to do an episode. I've been working very heavily, and I had my cat that had some pretty intense surgery, so last week I had to be home with her. So I'm a few episodes behind, but I'm going to try to get caught up back here as much as we can, okay? So this episode begins, we have the Dr. Lear moment. She's in her quarters recording her personal log. She's still saying how, based on the records that she has, and what she's been reviewing from Marla MacGyver's tapes, is that Khan didn't seem to be any kind of tyrant. He seemed to be more mission-driven than anything in what he was trying to do with the colony, and not be some sort of mad tyrant or dictator, essentially, to his people. And that basically what she feels is that he wanted to develop a new human society out on SETI Alpha 5. Dr. Lear gets called to Sulu's quarters. We find out that he actually gave her access to the sensor logs that the Enterprise took when it was surveying the SETI Alpha system, and they picked SETI Alpha 5. So basically what we find out is that Spock took the readings, and that there was really just some minor core instability that was noticed in SETI Alpha 6. Nothing really much else, so that they really didn't feel on the Enterprise that there was any issue that Khan and his people would have here. Dr. Lear, on the other hand, feels that something must have been missed, because obviously this explosion happened 6 months later. And Sulu's starting to wonder, why are you looking for reasons to make it that Captain Kirk was some sort of horrible person who purposely sentenced these people to some sort of death? And she said from her experience, and this is a quote of hers, "Monsters are made, not born." She also wants to know why Starfleet never checked on them, and she asks this to Captain Sulu. And Sulu basically says something like, Starfleet captains tend to get busy, things of that nature. And she goes, quote, "How convenient." So again, we know that she's trying to find some way to blame Kirk for why his people suffered on that planet. Then we go backwards to just shortly after that Khan and Marla found out that she was pregnant. So they're recording some sort of little thing in their home for the baby. And Paulo comes running into their home and saying, "I just picked up on this dyno scanner, SETI Alpha 6 just exploded." So they come running out and they see if something's going on, obviously, in the sky, and then the colony's hit by a massive shock wave, which throws everybody essentially to the ground. But then they look up and they also see that there's something that's coming down and it's actually crashing on the planet, and they suspected it's some sort of ship. So 5 of them go out. Khan, Ivan, Ursula, Paulo, and Marla. They go to see what's going on with this ship, and they do find a pretty severely damaged, downed ship, and they see an alien race down there. And Khan describes these aliens as they have skin like pearls, and their hair is silver and metallic. But what they also find out is that they're not talking. Now, there are survivors down there, and they count roughly about 100 at that point, and they also see they're dead laying around there. Marla feels, and they all know that now that SETI Alpha 6 has exploded, they're basically on a sitting death trap, that SETI Alpha 5 is going to be laid waste. Marla feels, I should help you with first contact with them. I've got experience with it with Starfleet. They might have warp drive or communications abilities that could help save us now that we can't stay on SETI Alpha 5. It's going to die. And there's a little bit of debate about whether or not that should happen. Marla feels, again, that they should help, but Ursula feels that they should attack, and Ivan feels that they should be completely killed off just to protect the colony. At this point, Khan doesn't really say what he feels should be done, but he actually, this is where we start to get a little bit of anger with him related to Kirk, because he says that he feels that Kirk, quote, stranded us on a dying world. So Khan ends up calling a council meeting, and in this council meeting, Khan agrees that they need to go and attack. So he's going to set up squads of 3 so that they can assess for survival and attack. He's going to give everybody weapons, guns, hand-to-hand weapons. At this point, they have surveyed that there are now 289 survivors. In the council, Marla starts to wonder if actually these aliens are telepathic, because again, they're still not noticing any kind of talk. And if they're telepathic, that could be a danger to all of them, okay, because some telepaths out there have been known to kill with a thought. Mado suggests that they come to see them so that they don't see their numbers, or she wants them to hide their numbers. Ivan feels that they're weak and that they need to attack now, and Khan finally agrees. So what he ends up saying is that they're going to wait till dawn, which is 6 hours away, for them to actually make this attack. Now, during this council meeting, there's a little mini side story where Paulo is involved, and he's talking to Joaquin, and he's saying, I don't understand why we're attacking these aliens. The planet's going to die. It's going to take us out and take them out too. What we should be doing is tracking all the pieces from Ceti Alpha 6 that are going to be coming and landing on the planet and causing the destruction of the planet. They should also be looking for alternate ways to survive, such as finding caverns, things of that nature. That's more important. Also around this time, we see that Erica is starting to prepare for battle, but she's in tears because she's not a warrior. She's a botanist, and she says this. Joaquin comes up, and she talks to him about this, and he says basically that I trust in Khan. But he also asks Erica for good luck in the battle that's going to be happening. Well, she tells him that he has Khan's blade and that he's going to be fine with that blade. And she also gives him a kiss as well. Now, what I thought was really interesting here is that Paulo actually ends up getting the guts to go into Khan's home, not to challenge him per se, but to give another perspective on this upcoming battle. He says that he feels that they should reconsider the attack, and that with the Dino Scanner, he's actually tracked 19 pieces of the planet that are going to be impacting the planet within the next 6 months, and that 2 pieces of them are actually as big as Iran. So we know that means that we can see why Ceti Alpha 6 or Ceti Alpha 5 gets laid waste after that. It's not just little pieces in a shockwave. All right. He feels that they should start scouting. He tells Khan this, scouting for cave systems and looking for water. Khan says that he hopes to find some sort of underground resources. Paulo feels that the ship that they have that crashed, these aliens, might actually have done some geological surveys and scans of the planet that they could use to tap these sources underground, and that could go away if they actually kill these aliens. So, but at this point, that Khan says that he's going to capture a few of them if he needs to, but that the rest of them are going to die. All right. At this point, before the battle, a triage center gets set up by Marla, and she starts to tell him about the story of Zephram Cochrane and First Contact. And she uses this as a way to show the importance of actually making first contact with these aliens and making allies with them so they could help, rather than either killing them off or making villains of them. All right. She said that it was one choice that Zephram Cochrane made that changed the lives of billions as the future went on, and it was for the better. All right. And she feels sad by his, quote, limits of imagination. So after this, Khan still says, nope, we got to go out. So they go out. Battle group marches out. They find out now that there are approximately 396 survivors of these aliens. They start to see that the aliens are moving into circles that are larger each time and are holding hands, and they don't understand why. All of a sudden, they start to hear this humming sound right before they're about to fire, and it's driving them crazy. The guns end up melting in their hands, and a lot of the weapons start to break into 2. They start to find out, they realize now that they are telepathic, and that Khan decides he doesn't want the rest of them to go with him. He wants to go and kill them with his bare hands. So he tells Ivan that they need to retreat and send the group back to the camps. Ivan, obviously, being as loyal as he is to Khan, feels that he needs to go with Khan and battle these people, but Khan says no. He says he doesn't fear them, and he yells, I am Khan. So at this point, after they start to go back to the colony, Khan's starting to go after them, Khan starts to hear a voice in his head. And this alien actually says that his name is Delmonda. And Khan claims that they own Ceti Alpha 5 and the aliens don't. So we find out that the ship is actually damaged. They were just surveying, and they were coming through when they got hit by the shockwave. And all they wanted to do was really make repairs to their ship so they could leave. But they're also willing to help Khan and his people. They want them to survive. He says that they're a race from thousands of light years away, from a planet named Elboria. Khan tells the Delmonda that he and his people must leave, and that he doesn't trust them. He then starts to show Khan images in his mind, some recent memories, things of what happened with Richter and with Joaquin, but then he also starts to hear water drops. Then it goes silent. Then the episode ends where Khan wakes up in the triage center. he says that he was shown by Delmonda telepathically that there are caves and that there's water underground, and that Delmonda showed them where they need to move their colony. And Delmonda basically wants all of them to survive. He doesn't want the Khan and his people dead. So they go out as a group and they find the underground water, and it's about 100 miles wide. Khan again, though, says that he is still the ruler of Ceti Alpha 5, but he understands at this point that his empire is never going to be. He said that he has hope from the sky, but he says, do I trust him? He's not sure if he should trust Delmonda at this point. And what price will the whole colony pay if he rejects his help? So he's kind of in a quandary right now. He still feels he can't trust Delmonda, but if he doesn't trust Delmonda, what kind of effects is that going to have on the colony's survival? Okay, so this was a very interesting episode. So we finally got to the point. Ceti Alpha 6 explodes. We're halfway through the series here, and Ceti Alpha 6 finally explodes. I'm starting to feel a little bit about how Sulu kind of is, and even Tuvok, that kind of how Dr. Lear is. What is her purpose for being so adamant that she wants to find that maybe that Kirk actually settled these people on the planet and doomed them to die on purpose? What's the motivation here? Again, Sulu said to her in an earlier episode, his people are dead. What are you trying to prove by smearing Kirk's, legacy essentially here, or reputation? And again, she feels that Khan had to have turned the way he did for a reason. That he wasn't just some mad tyrant nonstop. Something had to have happened. So we're still developing, trying to figure out more what her motivations are with dealing with this situation and why she's wanting to prove Kirk did something wrong. All right. Khan's instincts versus Marla's Starfleet training. So it was very interesting here because really for the first time we see Khan since they arrived on Ceti Alpha 6, we're starting to see that Khan's, not tyrannical, but his leadership abilities are now starting to come out in terms of having to attack and having to fight. Excuse me, I need a little drink here. Excuse me. Thank you. So, I like the fact that we're seeing a interesting shift or misbalance between Khan feels instincts of survival, we have to attack, but Marla's Starfleet training is coming in and saying, hey, let's make first contact. Let's see what these people are really about and see how we can mutually help each other. They might be able to help us escape. And Khan at first is not quite ready to do that. Again, the instinct of the augments was to conquer and attack people that didn't agree with them, to build their society. So Khan's reverting back to that instinct early on. But as we see later, as the episode goes on, he gets contacted by Delmonda himself. So Delmonda actually makes the first contact in this situation and actually shows that there are ways that the people can survive underground on Ceti Alpha 5. And this actually is proven that he can be trusted because Khan and his people go to this area and they see these hot spring and this big lake. It's like 100 miles wide. Now they know that it's going to dry up eventually, but they know that that's their best chance for survival at that point is to go into these caverns. All right. So now we're starting to see a little shift from we're going to automatically attack for our survival to what do I do here? Do I attack and possibly risk killing my entire colony, or do I trust these people and work with them to maybe try to get us off of this planet? But even though that's being said, Khan still says, I am the ruler of Ceti Alpha 5, no matter what you people are going. That's still where he stands by the end of the episode. All right, so it's very interesting that with the whole explosion of Ceti Alpha 6, so we find out that Spock actually did a scan of the entire system, and they did detect the core instability in Ceti Alpha 6, but they didn't think it was anything that was going to be imminent. For them, they thought it would be thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of years down the line, so there would be no problem with settling Khan and his people on Ceti Alpha 5. All right, so we also find out that I was really surprised. I thought that instantly once the explosion hit and that shockwave hit that we were going to have all this chaos on the planet immediately. And that's what happened in the Greg Cox books. The explosion happened and it affected the planet almost instantly. We didn't get that here. They had the shockwave, but nothing else really was happening at that point. We find out that there are going to be a lot of pieces of Ceti Alpha 6 that are going to be impacting Ceti Alpha 5 in the next 6 months. Those two big ones that are the size of Iran. No wonder the planet dies completely. Because the shift of the orbit was one thing. But, asteroids or pieces of the planet, that large, could cause a extinction level massacre or issue. So, yeah, it's no wonder that the planet goes from this beautiful living planet to a bowl of dust. Because what do you think would happen with all those pieces falling and hitting the surface? So it makes sense. I really like Paulo's growth in this episode because he goes from this kind of timid kind of guy, he's just kind of like the science nerd who's worrying, but who's starting to worry about the SETI Alpha 6 stuff, to actually standing firm and saying, Khan, I really don't understand what we're doing here. You know, forget about the aliens, don't worry about them. We got to worry about our own survival, you know. But we have to work with the aliens to see if they have any geological scans that can help us in the immediate moment, because we need to find something, and we need to find something fast where we can go that has water and enough shelter to keep us alive. All right. We're also, again, in this episode, starting to see the feelings of of Khan toward Kirk. We saw little seeds of it in the first couple episodes in this series, where it doesn't really seem like he trusted why Kirk left him there. But now we're starting to see where the beginning of the revenge is going to come in, because he really starts to feel now that Kirk purposely left him on that planet knowing that there was going to be a cataclysm on SETI Alpha 6, and that Kirk's plan all along was to sentence them to death. So there's the beginning seed right there. Now obviously that's going to grow as the next 4 episodes come into play. It has to, because otherwise we wouldn't have Star Trek 2 at this point. All right, I'm going to be honest with you, and this is how I want to really end the episode. I am not happy with this alien storyline. I think it does a lot of disservice to the whole Khan story. I mean, for years, I know, at least on my end, I always pictured the SETI Alpha 6 exploded, the planet ended up dying, and the colony had to work together to survive as best they could with their genetic engineering and augmentations to help them to survive. Okay, now all of a sudden we've got an element in with these aliens who actually led Khan and his people to a place on the planet to survive. I just think that's a cheap cop-out. I think it would have been a lot more interesting to see Khan and his people struggling to find these caves, or struggling to find these water sources, similar to what happened in the Greg Cox book about the exile of Khan and Ian Singh. That's what I think would have been a lot more interesting, is them relying on themselves. Now they're getting helped by these aliens. Now let's just go move our colony. No big deal. You know, even though we have a lot more stuff going on. So, I mean, there's more story coming, but I don't see how that was helpful, why they felt the need to add that piece in. And the question is now, what's going to happen with these aliens? Obviously, the aliens aren't there when the Reliant comes and finds Khan and his people, so do they get killed off somehow by Khan and his people? Do they leave? You know, what ends up happening? And again, apparently they didn't help with sending out any communication or anything, because again, the colony's still there when the time the Reliant shows. So, I don't know, I don't really care for the alien addition to this story, but I am curious to see where it goes and how it affects the later storyline. So that's basically my review of Episode 5 of the Star Trek Con audio podcast. I would like to really know what your thoughts are about this episode. Please feel free to comment down below what you think about the episode and what you think about my thoughts about the episode. You can follow, obviously, if you want to watch more episodes of Pittsburgh's Trek Chat, from the previous con reviews to other episodes, you can go to YouTube, type in Pittsburgh's Trek Chat in the search engine, and it'll take you directly to my channel. You can also follow the show on Facebook, facebook.com/Pittsburgh's Trek Chat. You can also follow the show on X at PGH Trek Chat. Looking forward to the next episode. Until then, may yins live long and prosper.